All right, guys, I believe we are live right now, and as usual, I hope there are no technical difficulties, but welcome everyone to episode 15 of Press X or Press Cross Podcast, whatever you prefer to call it. I know there's always people who have something to say about that, but today I think we have some, as usual, pretty good topics to talk about. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be doing any ranting during the duration of this podcast. There's a chance I might, but we already talked a lot this week about the Xbox event, and this is probably going to still be the center topic, but there's a lot of other stuff surrounding it we have to discuss that has happened since then. So we're going to talk about that. Obviously, as the title implies, one of the things I really want to focus on is how somehow, I don't know how, but somehow Microsoft managed to immediately take all of the heat that was on Sony and transfer it over to them, like basically shielding them, like taking a bullet for them, I guess you could say, in a way. And I just find the whole situation very fascinating. So I want to talk about it. We're going to be talking a lot about Xbox during this podcast simply because there's a lot of Xbox stuff going on. There's a lot of Xbox executives saying things and talking about different aspects of the console. We also have an analyst who is predicting that the Xbox Series X is going to end up being a $400 console, and that there's a pretty high chance, according to him, that Microsoft may attempt to undercut the PlayStation 5, which is very interesting. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how there seems to be some confusion surrounding the Xbox Series X, where there is one executive at Microsoft saying that we can expect every single game to be a bare minimum 60 FPS, but there are other individuals within Microsoft claiming otherwise. So we're going to talk about that. And we actually are going to talk a little bit about the PlayStation 5 event and our expectations for it. I feel like this is a pretty relevant conversation considering the event we just got with Microsoft. It kind of naturally makes you wonder, what are we going to expect from Sony? Something similar, something a lot better, potentially even something worse. We're going to talk about that, and the last topic we're going to be discussing is actually like 20 topics in one. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit there, but there's just a lot of other game news that's not necessarily related to the consoles themselves, although it is next-gen related, but there's just a lot of different game news that I want to take some time to go over and talk about. So we have already over 400 people watching, which is fantastic. Do me a favor, hit that like button to help the podcast out. You guys have been showing absolutely amazing support here on the channel. We already have Jonathan saying keep up the great streams, and to that I say I will do my best. I'm enjoying it more and more week over week, and there's just been a lot to talk about here. So, we are going to get right along here. What I want to make sure to do, as usual, before we really dive into all the topics, I want to give a nice shout out to all of the members of the channel. Now, I have more members than ever before. I'm going to assume that's because we have some perks that recently went live, new channel perks anyway, exclusive to members. To just kind of remind you of what those are, you're going to get the badge next to your name, the PlayStation logo that changes the longer you are a member. If you're a member for an entire year, you get the classic PlayStation logo there, which is pretty cool. We also have, let's see, because I know there's 3 more perks. You get a shout out before each podcast, which I'm going to get onto that in just a second here. You're also going to get an exclusive live stream, the members-only live stream at the end of every month where we kind of just hang out. It's a little bit different from this, obviously. It's not going to be the same thing. It's going to be a little bit more personal, I guess you could say. I'm going to be able to interact with the chat a lot better. We're not necessarily going to have predetermined topics. And the other perk that I want to just take a minute to plug here is the MBG and Friends Game Club. This is the one I'm most excited about simply because it's something very different where basically month over month I'm going to get me, a friend, maybe a couple of friends, and if we're playing the same game, we're going to kind of play the game and just talk about it. It's going to be like a game club. So you can look forward to that. I want to let everybody know that there will be a total of 12 game clubs a year that we'll do, and 3 of them throughout the year will go live publicly. So there will be 9 that are purely exclusive to just members, and there will be 3 that actually go out a year publicly for everybody to, not only see what they're missing out on, but if it's like a bigger game, right, like The Last of Us 2, I know that that's something most people are going to want to see, and I don't want to, keep that from the wider audience. So getting to the shout-outs here, as I said before, as this list continues to grow, there's a good chance I may have to move this towards the end of the stream because I don't want to spend the first 10 minutes of the podcast listing names, but we're going to start here. DevilChild63, Junior Jackson, Tom1XD, Texas Juggalo 1, Ron Pugsley, Crimson X25, Enrico Kitching, Mr. Hamster, Dieter Ruse, David Gaines, Cleans McKean, Randy Lee, JV Rod, David, Troy Ware, Blood Rain, David, Darth David R, Haran Alakandri, Mike Smith, Team Ayaz, Loki Lies Myth, Josh Z, J. Donald Knott, Tommy Versetti. Let me keep it moving here before I lose track of everything. We have Alex Churchfield, Spud, Casty L, Freeze Vamp, Velcro Apple, Chris B, Star from V1, Joe Armstrong, Velocity, D-Doc, Tyrone Futter, Tyson Webb 509, Samuel Payne, Thunder Girl. Moving right along, because again, we have more members than ever before. Kirahim Killed This Channel, Eric Golden, Wendigo Gore, Julian Carvajal, Spade White, Karsten Goldbeach Clausen, Kazaki, Aaron Charles, Lions Cine Pride Lord, Kurmin Toyotomi. I'm probably butchering your guys' names, but I apologize. Ganesh B, Billy Too Smooth, Den Omorph, O'Cumbles, Malav Shah, Brittany Blow, Nikolai, a.k.a. Nico, Draco S, Gabriel Rudolph. There's a name here that is in Arabic that I will try to read at the end. Junio Desaurus, Max Ford Gaming, Solidus Snake, Brian Adams, Vince M, Tony Wilcock, Dylan Wood. So the name that was in Arabic, we have Muhammad Al-Shalawi. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. So yeah, as you can tell, guys, this list is getting a little bit bloated here. So, for the sake of the podcast, I'm probably going to have to start shouting you guys out at the end. I'm sure you understand why. So yeah, that was some intro there. So appreciate everybody who's here. Already over 600 people watching, which is awesome. And we are going to dive into the first topic here. So Xbox hosts their first official Xbox Series X event where they showcase third-party titles. It ended up being very disappointing, a very disappointing show, mainly because they set people's expectations too high. There was a lot of backlash due to them claiming it was a gameplay reveal event, but there really was not much gameplay at all. And so we have a little bit of an update here. The head of Xbox marketing, Aaron Greenberg, responded to the backlash from gamers. This is exactly what he said on Twitter. Had we not said anything and just show May Inside Xbox like we did last month, I suspect reactions might have been different. Clearly, we set some wrong expectations, and that's on us. We appreciate all the feedback and can assure you that we will take it all in and learn as a team. So we have Mr. Hamster saying, the guy who followed me last night isn't you, right? No, I assure you, Mr. Hamster, it's not me. You don't have to worry, although you might want to, look out for that. If you have somebody following you, that's definitely not a good sign, but I can assure you it was not me. Appreciate that super chat. But I wanted to just take a moment to, talk about what Aaron Greenberg is saying here, because, I genuinely feel that this is just a kind of a cop-out response. Like, Aaron Greenberg is the head of Xbox marketing. He's been the head of Xbox marketing for quite some time now. I don't know if he's been the head of marketing for the entirety of Xbox. I don't think that's the case, but I know that he was for basically the entirety of the Xbox One, and I just don't understand, how it has to be this once again. We have Danny Diablo, a new member. Welcome to the channel, buddy. Thanks for going above and beyond and choosing to support me directly here. Look forward to your exclusive perks. But Aaron Greenberg, I do genuinely appreciate the response here that he's giving, because he didn't have to respond to this. He didn't have to say anything. And I'm sure he, as well as everybody else there at Xbox, is well aware by this point of just how not great this first showing went. And as I've said before, it's worth repeating, I don't think it's the games themselves. In fact, I think some of the games that were shown off, like the Medium, for example, look pretty cool and promising. I think the problem really lies in the fact that, first of all, you label it a gameplay reveal event. There's really not much gameplay. And second of all, a lot of the stuff you're showing, while it is third party and you did, let people know not to expect first party stuff, it's, still people were expecting some bigger third party reveals and they were hoping to see gameplay from those bigger third party reveals. And we didn't get either of that. It's also really confusing, and again, this is where I have to question Aaron Greenberg and the people who are marketing over there at Xbox. It came out that a lot of these third-party games that were shown are actually Xbox console exclusives. Why the hell would you not let people know about that? To me, that has to be the most confusing part, because if there's anything that probably would have made Xbox fans tuning in feel just that much better, or a little bit better, would be that. So, you guys already know how I feel about that. We've been talking about it pretty much all week, but all I can say about this response from Aaron Greenberg is, yeah, it's nice that you're saying this, but I'm just going to have to be blunt here. The time for apologizing has come and gone, and it's been gone for a while now. We're tired of hearing the excuses. We're tired of hearing that, oh, yeah, it was our mistake. I mean, again, it's nice that you're saying something, but, as Kratos would say, don't be sorry, be better. And I feel like, as cliche as that sounds at this point, it's just, not only has it been true for Xbox for a long time, and I think they've improved, you guys know, I've given credit where credit's due with the Xbox Series X, the rollout of that information surrounding the specifications of the console and some of their features. I think they've been on point with that, but when it comes to the most important aspect, that being the games, I feel like they really dropped the ball big time here, and frankly, I just don't want to hear this from Aaron Greenberg. I don't want to hear anything. I just want to see them do better. And so all I can say about what Aaron Greenberg is saying here is I genuinely hope you are taking in the feedback and not just saying this to kind of, save face here. I really hope you are, and I hope that you understand now more than ever what the expectation is for this July event. Because as most of you know, this is something that Microsoft was kind of bragging about during their streamers. They're like, just wait until our June event. And it's just a little bit mind-blowing to me that we're sitting here nearly mid-May of 2020. It's the new generation, the start of a new generation. And we actually hear people from Xbox continuing, and not just Xbox, but some of the fans as well, saying, just wait. Just wait? You want us to just wait? Still, you want us to wait after all the waiting we've already done? That's unacceptable. It's just simply unacceptable. Nobody should be saying that. I understand that it's people's jobs at Xbox to market their July event and get people hyped up for it. But by this point in time, the talk is over. The waiting is over. If you're going to do an event, I don't give a shit what event it is. I don't care if you're just showing a single game. Okay? I don't care if it's an indie game. I do not care. I don't care if it's your entire first party showing. You better bring it, because this is the time to bring it. You guys know I've tried to give credit where credit is due, and one of those areas is, if you go back to a podcast from 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was saying that I genuinely feel more excited about Xbox, specifically in the area of games, because at this point in time, it seems like, okay, you look back at 2017, 2018, and 2019, and you realize maybe they were just saving a lot of things, right? And it would make sense. It's logical. They're saving it so they can have just so much to show and get people excited about during, 2020. And I still do believe that to a certain extent, but this is not how you start it. This is not how you kick it off. This just gives people, again, as I put it before, PTSD to the Xbox, thinking about Xbox One and the past couple of years when it comes to games. It just gives gamers PTSD. We have JV Rod here. Appreciate that generous donation, buddy. You say, keep up the awesome job. MBG, if Bluepoint Games is not working on Demon's Souls remake, what else do you hope it is? I keep hearing it could be Metal Gear, but I'm not sure because of Konami. What do you think? Well, to be honest, that's exactly what I would want it to be. For as excited as I am for Demon's Souls, and I am very excited for that. In fact, I'm so excited for it, I really hope that's what it is. But if it's not that, something I would like even more than that is a Metal Gear Solid remake. That would just be kind of a dream come true. But unfortunately, I just don't think that's likely. Konami, the last thing we've heard with them is about the Silent Hill game that apparently they're working on with Sony, and I hope that comes true. I would like to see Konami do something with Metal Gear, whether it's, I don't necessarily know if I could sit here and say Metal Gear Solid 6, but I think that at that point, if Kojima's not involved, nobody wants to see that. But at the very least, I would like to see some remakes or remasters of some of the classic Metal Gear Solid games 1 through 4 would be awesome. So that's the game, actually, you're on the money there, that I would love to see coming from Blue Point. Something beyond that, I don't know. I've heard people say like Castlevania or something, Legend of Dragoon. I don't know. I mean, I would be up for anything, but I'm thinking it's Demon's Souls. If it wasn't that, I would love to see Metal Gear. So thank you again, JV Rod, for that generous donation, and I appreciate your continued support here. We also have the Mark Shark saying, how long has it been since an Xbox show wowed you? I don't even know. To be honest, I don't even know at this point. It feels like it's... When I look back to Xbox One, I feel like it was almost that entire generation was just one big letdown. Like, it kind of started pretty good. Like, to be honest, the start that Xbox had when it comes to the games from 2013, 14, and maybe even a little bit of 15 was not that bad. It's just everything else around the Xbox brand at the time was so messed up that it kind of distracted from that. But it seems like ever since then, it just took a hard left turn or just went downhill. And I'm literally a little bit shocked that we are sitting here again, almost the middle of 2020, and we have an Xbox marketing executive damage control. Well, I don't want to say damage controlling, because that's not what they're doing. He's not trying to spin it, but basically admitting, yeah, we messed up. Sorry, we'll try better next time. Like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, I know that I sound harsh right now, but it's because, look, not all hope is lost for Xbox. I'm not going to go in that hard. I'm not going to say, oh, look, their first showing with third-party games. Again, it's nothing against the developers and the games that were shown. I want that to be understood. I'm not trying to, crap on the games that were shown. I'm not trying to crap on the developers because, again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But what I'm trying to get at here, well, before I get to that, we have Josh Z. You're saying the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. Yeah, I mean, we learned that from Far Cry 3, and it seems that Xbox is taking that to heart, where they're just, I don't want to believe Xbox and Phil Spencer and the marketing over there at Xbox, I don't want to believe they're completely insane and actually believe that this is the right way to go about it, because when it comes to the console, you're nailing it. When it comes to the games, you're still continuing to blow it, and that's not, first impressions are everything. This, games-wise, is possibly one of the worst first impressions Microsoft could have made when it comes to getting people excited for their new console and the next-gen games and convincing them to go out there and buy their console. Now, maybe Microsoft doesn't care, but something tells me they do. Something tells me that somebody's getting their, they're getting screamed at, basically. Or maybe not screamed at, but they're getting torn into because of how out of touch this really was with what people's expectations were. But you look at Sony, they're coming off of possibly the biggest PR disaster with, the release of The Last of Us 2 and the way this is going down. And I'm telling you, like, as a content creator, I can tell you, I was following this just like that. It's almost like there's only a few select people who still care and still talking about it because now the focus is turned to Xbox. They basically diverted everybody's attention. They took a bullet for Sony. Now, I don't want to exaggerate this. I'm not saying that by the time The Last of Us 2 comes out, the conversation's died down, because it certainly hasn't. The conversation has yet to reach that fever pitch, right? It's going to once the game comes out. But boy, oh boy, is Sony probably cheering Microsoft on, saying, thank you so much for doing this for us, because this was, not good. We were feeling the full force of the gaming community's frustration and just, torn conversation, and they were the center of attention for not a good reason. And then suddenly Xbox comes in and they're like, you know what, Sony, don't worry, back up, we'll take this one for you, completely unnecessarily, when in fact this, if anything, was the opportunity for Microsoft to... Now, I understand how people are going to react to what I'm about to say. They're going to say, well, don't you understand, MBG? Sony or Microsoft is not trying to compete with Sony. They're not trying to compete with Nintendo. They're not trying to go for the throat. They're not trying to, kick the shit out of the competition or anything like that. I don't care if that's what Phil Spencer has said in the past. They're still in competition with Sony. They're still in competition with Nintendo. And anybody who thinks that Phil Spencer doesn't want to win is wrong. I know he plays the nice guy, but he's made it clear. And honestly, in the most recent podcast Unlocked, or maybe not the most recent, but one of the more recent ones where they interviewed Phil Spencer, you could tell that guy is confident now. And he's like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about what we're going to be doing. So when you listen to the way he talks, you can tell, like, they still want to be number one. And if they could be number one overnight, they would gladly take that opportunity. And let me put it to you this way. Microsoft doesn't set up a showing like this hoping that, man, I really hope that after our first next-gen game showcase, people are really pissed off at us and unhappy and we experience severe backlash. I really hope that's what happens. That's not the intention at all. The intention is the literal opposite of that, where they want people to prop Xbox up even more and get even more momentum and even more speed going into next generation. And so, the point I was going to make here is they had every opportunity to basically just punch Sony right directly in the face, like a free hit here. I mean, of course Sony could have retaliated. They could have been planning to retaliate. We don't know, but something tells me that Sony's plans are a little bit further out, so this would have been a perfect time for Microsoft, just like they did, kind of catch everybody off guard and even caught Sony off guard in December by announcing the Xbox Series X. They easily could have just taken a free shot and probably... If they executed on this the way people were hoping they would, I think they would have built up a tremendous amount of momentum going into their July event, and it would have taken a lot less pressure off of the July event. And I've seen some people trying to damage control this, and they're saying, you need to chill out here, man. Listen to me, MBG, you need to chill out, okay? When you look at July, you look at that July Xbox event, that is basically Microsoft's E3. That's where the big guns are going to be coming out. And while I don't doubt that, what does that sound like to you? What does that sound like to you? Are you really going to go, you're really going to walk down this road again and try to tell me and others, just wait for the July event? Come on, guys. I know you guys can get this, chat. What does that sound like to you? I'll give you guys a second to answer it. I'm sure you all know. But to me, that sounds exactly like wait for E3. Just wait for E3. Now look, E3 2019 for Microsoft was not good at all, in my opinion. It was barely passable. But you could maybe argue I could give them the benefit of the doubt because they're saving everything. They even talked about this. I even made fun of them for it because it was ridiculous. They're basically saying, like, look, we know E3 2019 wasn't the biggest thing you guys were hoping for, but just wait till E3 2020 because we're saving some stuff. And they were talking like that. And to me, this is just like, look, I think at this point I've proven that I am willing to give a fair shake when I believe something deserves a fair shake. I gave this event a fair shake leading up to it. You guys know I was excited for this. I was positive towards it. I didn't go into it thinking, oh man, I can't wait to see this train wreck. In fact, I thought the exact opposite. I thought we were going to see some big third-party games. I thought we were going to walk away from that and I was going to live stream it and be like, God damn, guys, did you see that? That was awesome. Like, what a great thing for Microsoft to do. And I'm excited as well because even though I'm not buying a Series X and I'm buying a PS5, look at these games. Like, and then we find out after the fact, after the show, that a lot of this stuff is exclusive to console exclusive to Xbox, which I'm just like, okay, that was just confusing to me. It's frustrating. I mean, even the most hardcore Xbox fanboys are sitting here like kind of scratching their head being like, what the hell are you doing, Microsoft? Like, you should know better by now. You should know better. And I'm just like, well, there's been people who've kind of been coming at me for the past couple of months and they're like, MBG, you're going to end up switching. You're going to flip-flop again back to Xbox, which first of all would never happen. because you have to understand, like, I'm not that extreme anymore. I'm not extreme to the point where I'm like, I only need to play one game and one console and one this and one that. Like, no. Obviously, I'm PlayStation-centric now, but doesn't mean I'm never going to play Xbox again or talk about it. I mean, hell, half this podcast is going to be dedicated to talking about Xbox. We talk about Xbox almost on a weekly basis. But a lot of people are like, dude, you're going to flip-flop right back to where you were, because that's just how amazing Xbox is going to be. And to be honest, I was like, well, I'll never flip-flop back. I'm all about that, man. Like, I'm all about, if you're telling me Xbox is showing me games that look like what you're seeing right here, God of War, hell yeah, I'll be there, man. I'll be there playing those games. So, I don't know. I guess just seeing the momentum that was built up with how well they executed the reveal of the Xbox Series X, how well they executed the reveal of Hellblade 2, I guess I just thought to myself, well, they're on the right track. They have a crap ton of momentum in their favor. They're speeding, head on to next gen, and they're really coming out here aggressive. So I guess I just kind of had a higher hope that whatever their first showcase is, look, I understand that people are like, dude, you gotta lay off. This was just a third-party showcase. Like, I'm not gonna lay off. Don't lay off, because you need to let them know that, like I said, it doesn't matter. As The Rock would say, it doesn't matter what you think, right? Like, you need to understand that this is the time to bring out the big guns. If you're going to ring the bell, if you're going to tell people to show up, if you're going to hype it up, I don't care if you want to call it a gameplay reveal, I don't want to care if you want to just call it a game showcase, an indie showcase. Again, I do not care. You need to be ready. You need to ensure that you are going to wow people, not with smoke and mirrors, but with the stuff that people love to see. And this is where I had to kind of push back against some people, because they're like, wow, man, your expectations are all out of whack. What do you expect from Microsoft? And these are the same people who look at a lot of Sony's games and they're like, they're just too cinematic. They're just too many cutscenes. It's like watching a movie, or it's like playing a movie. And I'm just laughing my ass off in the background, because I'm like, are you kidding me? Last time I checked, Sony is the one. Granted, they haven't had a big event in quite some time, but I think that's because they're saving it. I could be wrong, but that's my assumption. Last time I checked, Sony is the one that when they have their big events, that when they ring the bell, when they get people to show up, and I can admit that maybe their last E3 showing was a little bit bizarre. I think the format of it was bizarre, and like how they chose to present it, but you can't take away the fact that Sony has done such a fantastic job of, when they show off and reveal their games, they allow these developers to show off 10 to 15 minute live gameplay demonstrations. Not for every game, but for the bigger games, right? And I'm not saying that at this third-party event, Microsoft should have allowed a 15 to 20 minute demonstration of Elden Ring. Granted, if they did, I guarantee people would be talking much more positively about this. If they want to keep it short and concise, still, at the very least, you better make damn sure you show some Assassin's Creed gameplay, and let it be 10 minutes. People are okay with that. It's not a matter of length, right? Like, you don't have to keep everything short, sweet, and to the point, especially when it comes to showing off stuff related to next gen. People want to see the whole thing. Show them the whole thing. As Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, show them the whole thing, man. Don't hold back, And that's just how I feel at this point in time when it comes to Microsoft, where it's like, listen, maybe we will forget about this. Maybe we will look back and laugh at this and be like, oh, well, it was just one misstep, right? But that's just, that's how people would feel if this was Sony. Because again, Sony has earned the goodwill all throughout this current generation. So if they make a misstep, it's like, okay. Not their not their best first showing, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They've earned that much. Microsoft hasn't. Microsoft is at a point where every shot you take, it needs to land. And it needs to hit. And I genuinely believe that. So I just can't give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna lash out on them for this, because I want to make sure, Microsoft, if you're listening, if there are any Xbox marketing executives listening to this podcast, highly doubt there are, but if you are, please ensure that your July event is going to blow people away. Because this is just a little taste of what you will experience if it doesn't. The backlash will be 10 times more severe if it doesn't land in July, and it's just not good. So make sure it is. We have Oi Akurumi saying Sony is Batman and Xbox is the whole Justice League. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're getting. I'm assuming what you mean is that, I don't know if you're referring to like the Batman movies, to whereas the Justice League movie was not good, or if there's something I'm not getting here. But either way, I appreciate your super chat, and I agree. If I had to look at Sony as anything, I look at them as I look at Sony as Batman. Xbox to me just kind of comes off as, I don't know, like what's a Batman villain that's just kind of a joke? Like, just when you think maybe this Batman villain is going to be able to give Batman a run for his money, they just don't. I mean, I only know so many Batman villains, and I know they're mostly all pretty intense, but if anybody knows, let me know in the chat. But it just reminds me of like one of those villains that like you just can't take seriously, and the second it seems like, maybe I have to take them seriously, they just shoot themselves in the foot. They just prove once again that they're not, But we have Dylan Marciano, you're saying... Oh, also, Dylan, are you the foot guy, Dylan? I'm pretty sure you're the foot guy right now, right? So, yeah. But you're saying, how do you feel about... Hold on, before I read this, I'm seeing people say the Riddler, Penguin, Clayface. Yeah, maybe one of those, right? Like, definitely not the Joker. Definitely not one of those bigger villains. Definitely not Bane, right? But, Dylan, you're saying, how do you feel about the new 4-month online Summer Games Showcase event as a potential permanent replacement for E3? Also show feet. Yeah, see, I didn't even read it. I knew you were that guy. But first of all, I'm not going to show feet, but I can't blame you for trying. I actually feel really good about it because in my opinion, E3 totally just became something that not only you could tell it was bad and dying when Sony's just like, we don't even want to be part of this. And when Xbox, no offense, I mean, I know I can't say this without offending Xbox guys, but when Xbox is basically the only one out here like, yeah, E3's still great, that's when I'm like, okay, maybe there's something really wrong with E3 here. I think E3 is sick. You might need to take it out back. So honestly, I think Jeff Keighley is very competent. I think he's proven that. With what he can do with the Game Awards, and he's also done a good job with Gamescom, and I think that he's really becoming like the go-to guy for having these big events and planning these events, and I think more and more publishers are comfortable with that. And the Summer Games event, honestly, I'm excited at the idea of that replacing it, because you know what? E3 is come and gone at this point. Let's see something new. I always expected there to be a replacement, and to me this seems like the perfect replacement. It's just interesting the way they're handling it this year, and I think that it's just because of the nature of what's going on in the world right now. This is why they're handling it this way, but I'm going to be interested to see how it evolves in the years to come. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. And then we have Spider-Man saying both Sony and Microsoft failed in the marketing of their events. The PS5 tech dive and Xbox Series X gameplay reveal, they both overhyped and underdelivered, but I did like the diversity in what Microsoft showed. Better to show than not. Well, Spider-Man, I half agree with you here. I don't know if I could call Sony's event a fail. Like, I don't think it's as big of a fail as what Microsoft did with this event. And I'm just going to acknowledge this really quick before I finish answering you, Spider-Man. I can't read your name because it looks like it's in Chinese or Japanese, but you're saying, thank you for always take care of my son. I'm assuming this is Mr. Hamster's father. I'm assuming. I could be wrong, but you are welcome, sir. He's always welcome here on the channel and the podcast, obviously, and his, the support you guys show is always amazing, so thank you. But, Spider-Man, I only half agree here because I feel that Microsoft dropped the ball in a bigger way. Because I'm not saying Sony didn't drop the ball with that tech reveal, because I feel like while it was great for what it was, their fatal flaw in that moment, in my opinion, was maybe they didn't ring the bell loudly, but they still rung the bell. And to be honest, I think it's circumstantial. I think that Sony would have never done something like that if we weren't in the state we are now worldwide. We have to remember that was meant for just developers, and it was not a consumer-facing thing. Granted, they allowed the consumer to partake. Maybe that was the mistake. But when you look at what Microsoft is doing here, you're saying better to show than not. I don't agree. I don't agree because this killed their momentum. I'm not saying that what they showed was bad itself, because by itself it's fine, right? But it should have been more than that. It should have been bigger than that. And I do agree with you, though. The diversity we saw was nice. But I don't know, Spider-Man. I do appreciate your super chat for sure and the interesting comment. But I only half agree here. We also have iSlayer18. You're saying, I see Nintendo as the Disney of gaming and Xbox trying to imitate them with their own cartoony style games, and they don't live up to it. Xbox is probably the Penguin from Batman. Yeah. See, that's what I'm confused. Like, I don't, like, is Penguin, is he, like, a really formidable foe for Batman? But maybe you're right. Maybe he's just kind of one of those side enemies where it's like, he could be occasionally, but mostly no. But, you know, I kind of agree with you, iSlayer18. I think the time for Microsoft to be showing off cartoony games, at least when it comes to their first party, don't do it anymore. We have enough of that. I mean, you have that game Everwild, I think that's what it's called, but, you know, Sea of Thieves as well. You know, stuff like Ori. No offense against them, but the time for you to show those big AAA games with a less cartoony style and a more realistic, gritty aesthetic, yeah, the time has come for there. I kind of agree with you when looking at Nintendo as kind of like the Disney, where you're never going to get that type of stuff from Nintendo, so nobody should ever expect that. But from Xbox, I think we can expect that. I mean, you're talking about the creators of Gears of War here, or, you know, the people who put out Gears of War, you know, really brutal, gritty-looking game with the Xbox 360, and there's others as well. So I agree with you there. We have Zach. You're saying, have you seen the latest podcast from Moore's Law is Dead? They talked about the new generation or the next generation consoles, pros and cons. It's worth a watch. Zach, I have not checked that out yet, but I will be sure to try to get around to it when I have the opportunity to do so. So I appreciate you giving me the heads up on that. Appreciate the super chat. We also have Maxo77. You're saying Sony did not overhype it all. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think what the problem is, there was a little bit of a disconnect between Sony and the just the general audience, because Sony, I feel like, should have been a little bit more aware. You know, I agree they didn't overhype it, but I think that it would have done them well to be a little bit more aware of, like, guys, I don't think you understand just how hyped people are for PlayStation 5 news. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to, and I think maybe Sony would have. I know it sounds counterintuitive, and I know that no company would realistically ever do this, but in this case, I feel like it would have done Sony well, or served them well, to literally come out and say, guys, we're going to put this out here. Do not, I repeat, do not get hyped, because it's not what you think it is, but still look forward to watching it if you're interested. Because at that point, people will be like, well, they said not to get hyped. They literally said it. But again, that's kind of counterintuitive. It's basically free marketing. I don't think there was nearly as much backlash for that. But again, this is where Sony gets a free pass. They really do. They've proven themselves last generation. And because of that, they prove that, you know, they know what they're doing. And while maybe that they could have communicated a little bit better with the, you know, main audience that was tuning in, you know, not just the developers, I still don't think it was really that bad. And as I tried to explain to people, you have to understand, and this is not me doing mental gymnastics, this is not me damage controlling for Sony, you have to understand what this is and the purpose of it. The purpose of the deep dive, the road to PS5, was not to get people hyped for this console. It was meant to get developers hyped to make games for this console. And I tried to explain to people that this is not Sony's marketing. While this may end up being bundled in with their marketing, unintentionally, it's not them kicking off the PS5 marketing. They have yet to do that. Maybe you could argue that they kicked off the PS5 marketing with the DualSense controller, but I'm talking about, like, the big guns. And I could be wrong about this, but I really hope I'm not, because it would be ultra disappointing if I'm not right about it. I have a good feeling that the marketing team at Sony knows what works. Now, I heard that they have a new marketing team, so that makes me a little bit nervous, but surely, you know, they have to understand, at the very least, looking at the way Microsoft approached it, this doesn't work. Microsoft's approach, you could give it credit for, oh, at least they showed something, fine. Oh, at least it was diverse, fine. At least they're giving smaller, you know, unknown developers the time of day, fine. I agree with that. But when it comes to getting people excited for your next generation, I'm sorry, this is not the best way to go about it, and surely they know that now. You literally have Aaron Greenberg apologizing. So, Aaron Greenberg apologizing immediately slices anybody who tries to damage control it, because you can't. They're admitting they messed up. They effed up here. So, we have Chase the Chosen One. Remember when Xbox fans were hyping up Sea of Thieves? LOL. Believe it or not, at that moment in time, I was one of those people. And it's nothing against Sea of Thieves. What a husk of a game, though, when it first came out. Like, to me, that was like one of the first times I was like, oh, God. Like, I was so excited for this game, and I hyped it for so long. Mainly just because, like, I could get on board with it. I'm like, okay, we're going to be pirates, not meant to be taken seriously. I was excited to play with my friends, and I played it, and at first I was like, yeah, this is kind of awesome. And then I played it for like 8 hours, and I'm like, oh my God, like, there's nothing to do in this game. Like, literally nothing to do in this game. Now, I don't know what it's like now. I heard it's improved greatly, but still, I paid $60 for it, and I was kind of pissed off. That was kind of the beginning of the end for me with Xbox, and I was like, you gotta be doing better than this. But I was kind of a jackass at that time. I've learned a lot since then, and I've expanded my horizons. Yeah, I know, right? How many people are going to hear on a podcast on their own channel call themselves a jackass? Well, I can admit that at that time I was, I had a lot to learn, and I was being extremely closed-minded in that sense. So, yeah, there's still a little bit more we have to discuss here, because I did a lot of typing here for this. I said this has naturally sparked a new conversation. Talking about the Xbox event, it sparked a new conversation about what we should expect from their big July show, which we already talked about in their first-party games. Well, to just add a little bit more to that, at this point, I don't know what to expect. What I know for a fact is the pressure is on for Xbox now. When it comes to what I expect, being completely honest, my expectations are a little bit more reduced now, because, I just feel like we're going to go into this July event, and Microsoft, my greatest fear is they're going to prove that they are still completely out of touch when it comes to what gamers want to see when it comes to games. And I genuinely hope I'm wrong about that. In fact, I would love to be wrong about that. But, just seeing this, again, it gave me PTSD, and it just really made me feel like, oh, God, like, they haven't learned. They still don't get it. And we have Aaron Greenberg apologizing. What's next? Are we going to have Phil Spencer apologizing for the backlash they're going to get for their July event? I sure as hell hope not. And I also put here, it also makes gamers wonder what we can expect from Sony when they decide to do their game showcase. Will it be much bigger and better than what Xbox has done so far or will do? And this is where I want to refer to the chat. I want to see what you guys have to say, because, this isn't just me being a fanboy. It's really not. This is me looking at how Sony has conducted themselves throughout the PlayStation 4 generation, looking at how they've conducted themselves in their past events, and thinking that I would assume, and I think it's a safe bet it's a safe bet to make, that Sony's going to basically do the exact opposite. I think Sony's going to try to put more emphasis on smaller devs and indie devs. I think that they're going to try to get back to that, which is always good. But I think Sony is not going to forget why gamers continue to show up and support them, and what gamers get so excited about. And it's the big things. It's the big games. Now, this gives me an opportunity to kind of refer back to Red Gaming Tech. I feel like I'm mentioning him almost on a weekly basis here on the podcast. But, he said something very interesting in one of his past videos. I think it's a couple weeks old at this point, and we may have even referenced it before. But one of the things he said, based off of what his contacts told him, keep in mind, we do not know how legitimate these contacts are that he has. It could just be somebody making crap up. But I've been saying crap a lot in this podcast. I don't know why. But, it could be somebody making stuff up. But one of the things they said is they were explaining to him that the reason why Sony hasn't actually shown off the box yet, and they haven't really shown any big games yet, is because they want to make sure that it's ready to go. As in, like, not only are they going to show off a finalized production version of the box, not a specially made one, like, this is what you're going to get, this is what you're going to see, and we want to prove to you that we're only willing to show this console off once we know we can get it mass produced. They're about to get ready to do that in June, or they're about to, lock that in very soon if they haven't already. But most importantly, they only want to show the games. They only want to show the games when they're ready to be shown off, when they have a lot of polish, when they know that they're going to wow people, and they're 100% representative of what you're going to get on this next generation console. And I feel like that, because they know, and I believe that, because that to me sounds like Sony. They know that's what people want to see. They want to see those 15-minute gameplay demos. They want to see the meat and potatoes. They want to see it for themselves. JD Gamer, admit that the games showed look good. Scorn, medium. Call to the Sea looked like great games regardless of the overhyping. They look great. Well, here's the thing. If you want to remove those games completely out of the... Keep in mind, I'm not bashing the games. I do agree. I think out of everything we saw, the medium looks the most compelling to me. Like, I'm really interested in that, especially when I learned that the team developing that game, they said that this game is being developed specifically for the Xbox Series X, not the Xbox One. It's not cross-gen. I think it's going to be PC, but they're not putting it on the older console because it's going to be held back, and they don't want to hold it back. That gets me excited. So it's nothing against the games themselves. Scorn, I don't know. That game creeped me the hell out. I don't even know what that game is. I felt violated when watching that. But yeah, I agree that the games themselves are not bad, especially that first game they showed. I forget the name of it, but it was like a first-person shooter. It looked really cool. That's fine, but it's the event itself. It's the fact that this is the next-gen showcase. And the last time I checked, when you're going to hype up a next-gen showcase, again, I have to emphasize it one more time here, doesn't matter what you plan to show. All you need to know is what you show better blow people away and make people walk away saying, holy shit, that was awesome. I can't wait to upgrade the next gen. People are saying the opposite after this event. So again, it's nothing against the games. Freeze Vamp. You're saying I love your videos, MBG? Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. I enjoy making them. We'll have Ohai Akarumi. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Once again, I'll just call you Ohai. Maybe Xbox is two-face, promising one thing but being deceitful at the same time. Well, I mean, that's the thing, man, is like, that's what Xbox is kind of known for. No offense to Phil Spencer, and I know I say that, but I know I'm going to offend somebody. I'm going to directly offend Phil Spencer. This is what he's known for. Promising things. I mean, he's known for being a nice guy, which is great. Nobody dislikes Phil Spencer as a person. He seems like a nice guy. But when it comes to how he represents Xbox, seems like more often than not, he's basically getting people hyped with these statements every year, right? And I don't know if he's just getting bad advice from his marketing team. I'm starting to think that might be the case where they're like, oh yeah, hype this up, man. Hype this up on your Twitter. Put out a statement. Our best E3 ever. Look forward to it. Our biggest, most games ever. Just these marketing buzzwords just to let people down. Yeah, that to me, that is deceitful. I don't think it's done purposely. I just think it's out of touch. Like, whoever they have marketing is out of touch. And if Phil Spencer is allowing these marketers to whisper in his ear, so, because he's a very forward-facing executive in the gaming industry, people like him, he needs to stop listening to them. I mean, I know they're all about transparency, but how do you brag? Like, Phil Spencer bragged about how transparent they're being, right before this show, and then you talk about it, and you get people showing up, you get people excited for it, and you're being the opposite of transparent. You're saying this is a gameplay reveal, and the biggest complaint people have after walking away is, where the hell was the freaking gameplay? It's not good. So, we have, let's see here, gotta bring down the chat. We have the Expert Genius saying Scorn was shown in 2017 and Bright Memory Infinite, yeah, that's the game, was shown like a year ago. Sadia, wow, see, I didn't even know that. I mean, that's great that they're going to make their way to console, but these aren't even new games, apparently. I don't know how much truth there is to this. I do believe you, the Expert Genius, but damn, that is sad. That is sad. Yeah, that you put it well there. But, my expectation now for Sony's show, listen, Here's the good thing about Microsoft going first and making this misstep. If Sony had any intention of doing a show that was anywhere even, and I'm assuming they weren't, but if they did, hypothetically speaking, if Sony had any intention of doing a show that was in any way, shape, or form similar to what Microsoft did, they are now changing their plans. They're now taking notes like, okay, here's what not to do. Let's not do that. Like if they're marketers over at Sony, if that's what we're planning, I don't think they were, but they're taking notes now. JD Gamer, once again, you're saying Xbox hasn't said what they'll be showing in June, but we know we're getting something, and I imagine it will be even better, and then the July event will be great. Dude, I hope you're right, man. JD Gamer, I hope you're right. I sure as hell hope that what we see in June from Xbox is at least better than what we saw here, right? And I really hope, as I said, that as you put it here, the July event will be great. Am I going to sit here and say, yeah, it's going to be? Hell no. At this point, hell no. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to die on that hill. I've died on that hill a long time ago. And I've been dead ever since, I guess you could say, right? I'm not dying on that hill where I'm going to say, don't worry, guys. Xbox's July event is going to be great. I don't know that. If anything, at this point, we might want to be a little bit concerned. But, hey, more power to you if you can keep that optimism. And you're also saying, JD Gamer, a lot of games mentioned will be Xbox Series X exclusive. Yeah, we did talk about that. I think a lot of them are going to be timed exclusives. I think that might be a big reason why they didn't emphasize it. That's just my assumption. But I do think that that's, again, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Why didn't they mention this stuff during the damn stream? Let your audience know these games are exclusive. You don't have to tell them they're timed exclusive. Just tell them, hey, you can play these on the Xbox because they're only coming out on the Xbox right now. Josh Z, you're saying, I like Nintendo's Treehouse presentations best, MBG. Well, I think a lot of people share that feeling as well. I think they get a lot of praise for that. But, all right. The last thing I wrote down here we already talked about, where I said that this Xbox showcase was so bad, no offense. I say bad. I mean, it was so underwhelming. And it generated so much backlash for the whole lack of gameplay thing that it took away all of the heat that was on Sony. And I'm sure Sony is thanking them right now. We have a lot of other stuff to go over here. So I'm going to try to keep this moving along. I just basically spent an hour ranting. So hopefully, I guess that was the rant. JD Gamer, one more time here. You're saying, I'm not upset about what I saw. The games look good. Well, hey man, JD Gamer, I have nothing against I'm not going to sit here and argue with somebody and say, you better feel bad. Like, no, I'm not going to tell anybody how they should feel. I'm just expressing my personal frustration and my letdown, while also, I think, kind of echoing a lot of what the gaming community feels. But hey, as I said, man, more power to you if you still feel that positive. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. I'm sure there are some people like you who did genuinely enjoy what they saw and their expectations were met. Spud, you're saying, what would be a nice reveal come June? A deep down reboot. I was watching the gameplay where 4 players are taking on a dragon. The graphics are very impressive. Seems like a good fit for PS5. Yeah, that game Deep Down, what's up with that game, man? Like, that game was shown off. It was supposed to be like a launch title or a launch window title, and it just went away. I'm trying to remember if I remember hearing anything about that. I think the only thing we heard was that it was like renewed, or like a trademark or something was renewed by Capcom. I think one of the people who were working on it were basically saying that it's still a thing. The team is kind of all scattered right now, though. I could be completely wrong, but I swear I remember hearing this not that long ago. And that it gave some people a little bit of hope that maybe Capcom will do something with Deep Down, but I do agree. I think that would be a nice reveal. However, I think a Silent Hill game or a Crash Bandicoot game is looking a little bit more likely, Spud. But yeah, I'm all about that. I thought the game looked pretty good as well. When I went back and kind of looked at it, I was like, oh, yeah, this game. Shame we never saw it come to fruition. So we'll see what happens. But moving right along here, guys. The second topic, and this is also related to the Xbox Series X, but I think it's going to be an interesting conversation, and I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say about this. I may or may not make a separate video later in the week talking about this, because I know that not everybody catches the podcast, and it's a pretty interesting one. According to Michael Pachter, he's an industry analyst. I'm sure most of you know who he is. He believes that the Xbox Series X could end up being much cheaper than people expect. Speaking as part of a live episode of Jeff Keighley's bonus round this week, he suggested that Microsoft may try to undercut Sony. He thinks Sony will charge $500 for the PS5, and Microsoft might be willing to take a big loss, seeing as they could certainly afford to do so, and sell the Xbox Series X at $400. So this is exactly what Michael Pachter had to say. Microsoft has a big balance sheet. This is something he pointed out. If they want to cut the price by $100 and subsidize the first $10 million, they will. So I think they're waiting to have Sony blink first, and then they'll reveal the price at launch date. It's going to be holiday 2020, so very likely in November. And here's what he says, ready? And very likely $400. Now, listen, I know Michael Pachter, a lot of people kind of laugh at him, and to be honest, I don't, when I hear stuff like this, I understand why, but I also want to highlight something, and I just came across this. This comes from Tom Warren. He's from The Verge. He's like the Microsoft guy over at The Verge. He says, I know there's a lot of Xbox Series X/PS5 price speculation going on, especially after a certain analyst, Michael Pachter, predicted Microsoft going under by $100. I don't see that happening. I'd expect a similar or identical price around $500 and Microsoft to take a dollar loss on the Xbox Series S. Now, I think that makes a lot more sense. I think if there's any console that Microsoft would want to take any loss on, it would probably be the Series S. Although, I don't know, at this point, I don't know how people feel about the Xbox Series S or the Lockhart console, because all I know is I don't care about it. I think from a standpoint of trying to gain back market share, I think it's smart. I understand it, but I just don't know if it's going to land the way that Microsoft thinks it will. I think options are great, but in this case, I don't know. I think that it's just, I don't know. To be honest, this is an area where I don't know what to expect. I'm going to be interested to see what other people have to say, but I don't think the Xbox Series X is going to be $400, just flat out. I just think there's no way in hell. I think that, one of my biggest reasonings for this is not even the fact that I know that Microsoft, if they wanted to, they could take that loss, right? They could take that loss. They could take a $100 hit on each console for the first $10 million. That would equate to about, I think, a $1 billion loss, which is insane. But, it even makes sense, right? If you think, well, look at how hard they're pushing Game Pass. Game Pass now has over 10 million subscribers. Look at how hard they push their services and their subscriptions. It's not out of the realm of possibility. However, here's the big reason why I don't think they're going to. Microsoft, in my opinion, has proven that console sales don't really mean much to them anymore. And also because they found a solution to get their services and their subscriptions on other platforms. It's not so much a situation where we need to sell this console in order to get people to subscribe. No, they no longer need to do that. The console is just one part of a multi-piece puzzle to try, not puzzle, but a multi-piece, component here to try to get people to subscribe to their services and their, whatever else they have going on, right? Where they can make recurrent money here. The console is just one part of it. It's not the only part of it. If it was the only part, I'd say, yeah, maybe this is a viable, solution and something they would actually consider doing. But because to them, console sales are just one part of that equation, they're not going to do that. Not only that, but, Microsoft, they've allowed Xbox to take a loss over and over and over and over again, and I don't know if they've ever actually been able to recoup that loss. Maybe by now they have, but, it's just to a point where they're still a business, and people need to understand that. People need to understand that their intention is to make money, and I just don't think that selling your console at a $100 loss is the best way to make that money. It's a really great way to sell units. It's a really great way to gain back market share, but we know what Microsoft's intention is and how they plan to make their money, how they have been making the bulk of their money, and it's through services and subscriptions and game sales, and they're more willing to put their games on other platforms at this point than to take a loss on that significant of a loss on hardware. That's how I see it. So that's why I think Michael Pachter's wrong here. I could be wrong. He could be right. We're going to have to see. I just think it's extremely unlikely. And another thing I do want to mention here is if Sony could, listen, I know I may be crazy for saying this, but If let's just like entertain this scenario where we see a $500 PlayStation 5 and somehow, some way, a $400 Xbox Series X. Maybe I'm crazy. I still think PlayStation would have the lead. I still think PlayStation would still sell more. I think they would do better. And I think this is where you would see more than ever the power of exclusive games, because I know people can be like, well, that doesn't really make sense, man. Like, if God of War only sold like 10 or 13 million copies, what about the 100 million PS4 subscribers? Guys, it's a trickle effect. It's like I always say. Who are the people that are going out there day one to buy the consoles when they're launching? Who are those people? They're the hardcore. They're the people who care most. More often than not, they're the people who care about the games, the exclusive games, the games that are going to come. And then who are the people that end up picking it up afterwards? They're the friends and family members of people who've already, adopted these consoles and bought them. And they have a huge influence, whether anybody knows it or not, especially now more than ever with the age of YouTube and stuff, on swaying their friends and families' purchasing decisions, if I could speak correctly. So, I think that is where if we see a situation where it's $500 for the PS5 and somehow, again, I don't think it's going to happen, $400 for the Series X, maybe I'm being a little bit overconfident here in Sony's ability, but look, if that were me, yeah, I'll gladly pay that $100 extra. You want to know why? Because if Sony shows me that I can only play the next Horizon Zero Dawn on that PS5 console, the next God of War on that PS5 console, that Demon's Souls remake on that PS5 console, and other games, the next Spider-Man, whatever, you name it, Days Gone 2, to me, I would gladly pay $100 for that. Even if it is the weaker console, I don't care. Give me those damn games. If that's the only way I can get those games, I'm going to buy that console. And I feel like that is the sentiment that most hardcore gamers would also have. At least gamers who care about these types of games that Sony is making. JD Gamer, once again, you're saying the question isn't if Xbox could take the loss. It's if it's the best way to get people on their platform, and they have done this twice before. The only time they haven't was the Xbox One, so it's possible. Yeah, I do agree. It is a question of, will this be the most effective way? Like, how effective will this be at if we were to take this much of a loss? They're going to have to take into account that money. I mean, we know that Microsoft is... See, here's the thing. I feel like the management at Microsoft is different. In the past, if you look at like the way Microsoft approached the Xbox brand, as well as when they were in the phone game with Windows Phone, they were insanely aggressive at just bleeding money. Like, we will lose billions of dollars. We are going to gain market share by any means necessary. And it just didn't work out for them. It worked out for them at first with the Xbox. The first Xbox console is understandable. They had to break into the market, similar with the Windows Phone, right? The Xbox 360, they really started to gain momentum. The Xbox One, I think they just got kind of overconfident and thought that it was okay to sell their less powerful console at a higher price point with a camera bundled in that nobody wants with all these policies. I think that, I don't know, I just genuinely feel that Microsoft's management at this point in time, yeah, they're willing to take a little bit of a loss, but just look at the Xbox One X. To me, that is the greatest indication that they're not going to take a loss, this significant on the Series X. They're just not. Because if they wanted to gain back market share rapidly, they would have sold the Xbox Series X at $400. It would have been genius for them to do that. Well, when I say genius, I just mean in terms of if you want to rapidly gain back market share. But they didn't. They didn't do that. And so to me, that just tells you that Phil Spencer, yeah, like, they might be willing. They might be willing to do this, but I just don't see it. I think they'll take a little bit of a loss, but not much. I think that they're doing good enough with their subscriptions as is. They're doing good enough with their services as is that they don't need to take an unnecessary potentially $1 billion loss or more than that just for the sake of having more hardware out there. Because like I said, they're putting all their crap... I said it again. I said the word crap again. Why am I fixated on this word crap today? They put all their stuff on other platforms, right? I mean, we even heard that they were possibly even considering getting in bed with Nintendo, but I think Phil Spencer has since confirmed that that's not what they plan on doing. Now, I want to continue this, but, well, first of all, we have over 1,400 people watching right now, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you guys. The support you have been showing for the podcast recently has been absolutely amazing. Honestly, I think maybe this has become one of the best podcasts, PlayStation-centric podcasts around. I could be wrong about that, but hell, I mean, you guys show phenomenal support. So I'm going to ask you, out of the 1,400 watching, hit that like button. It only takes a second of your time, and when I tell you it helps, I'm not exaggerating. It really helps more than you know. So be sure to hit that like button. We almost have 500 likes already. Let's see if we can get way beyond that. And I appreciate the support, but I want to continue what we're talking about here because Peter Moore apparently had commented on this. Now, Peter Moore, he's actually a former Xbox executive. At one point in time, he was the head of Xbox. I think it was sometime during the Xbox 360 era. And it said, Peter Moore, who's a former Xbox and EA executive, but the current boss of Liverpool FC, agreed. He said both companies, apparently he agreed with Michael Pachter. He said both companies, and this is where, again, it highlights that the management has changed. If it was Peter Moore in charge, he would agree with what Michael Pachter's strategy is, where we're gonna undercut severely. We're gonna take this loss. But Peter Moore is no longer associated with Xbox. He said both companies are considering how much we can afford to lose in the first 12 to 18 months and how that is offset by software attach rate and services revenue. From that perspective of each company, Microsoft right now, the stock price and market cap is flying for them. Does Satya Nadella say, this is our opportunity? Let's dare Sony to come in at $500. Now, I do agree. When you look at it from that lens, from that perspective, it does kind of turn into a situation where, if they're feeling ballsy, I'll tell you this. I don't want to completely write this off. I don't want to, because the way Phil Spencer has talked about the price point of the Xbox Series X, it almost makes me feel that they could be crazy enough to do this. I will tell you this. In my opinion, the only time I could see Microsoft actually going for a $400, $399 price point for the Xbox Series X is if they decided to cancel the Series S model and they're not actually planning on releasing it. At that point, I think you could see a $400 Series X if there's no Series S model. And at that point, I would genuinely have to wonder what Sony's plan would be at that point. JV Rod, once again, appreciate the generous donations here, buddy. You're saying, MBG, what do you hope to see most from Sony's event? What game would excite you, or would I be most excited to see? That's a tough question. I mean, I'm going to be real right now. My fantasy that I know won't happen, but it would be like just absolutely... there's two things. I mean, if you're talking like complete fantasy realm here, fantasy realm, not going to happen. The first most ridiculous one is, you remember those rumors about Sony acquiring the Metal Gear Solid IP from Konami? Yeah, I know, it's not going to happen, but damn, that's what I like. I would love to see that happen and then find out that Blue Point is going to remaster some Metal Gear Solid games and they're going to get another one of their first-party studios to work on a proper mainline MGS game and bring David Hayter back. I'm mentioning that because we actually have a comment from David Hayter that doesn't give me hope that we're going to see any more Metal Gear in the future, but it just makes me happy to hear what he has to say about, the character Snake. So we're going to talk about that later on, but that's my most fantastical, not going to happen announcement. The second one that I think is also extremely unlikely, although certainly not out of the realm of possibility of happening at some point during the PlayStation 5 generation, is a Bloodborne 2 announcement. I thought Bloodborne was just absolutely a phenomenal game, and there really just hasn't been anything like it since, and I'm very excited for Elden Ring, but I also really, really want to see Bloodborne continue. I would love to see From Software at some point. I mean, could you just imagine a PlayStation 5 exclusive Bloodborne, like just on the PS5? Yeah. Also, just a heads up for the people who were looking at the God of War gameplay in the background, you're probably going to notice like I do a lot of running around and looking like I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It's been quite a while since I played this game, and I was coming in completely fresh again, so I apologize if there's just moments where I'm literally standing there looking like I don't know what to do next because I forgot, but just had to point that out because I'm watching it and I'm like, oh god, cringe. But yeah, JV Rod, I think that the most realistic announcement that I would be pretty damn excited for, like I would be most excited for, is a Silent Hill reboot. Like it's actually going to be a PS5 exclusive, and Konami did work something out, because at that point it would prove that Konami's willing to do something positive. You know, them getting Sony involved and the original creator being involved. If that's true, that would be the thing I think I was most excited for. Also, any surprises that Sony has that we just don't see coming. Mr. Hamster, appreciate your super chat. You're saying, isn't it weird if Xbox has 2 consoles at launch? It is a little weird because we've never seen that at a console launch. So that is a little weird, Mr. Hamster. But it kind of makes sense, given the direction that Xbox has gone in. JD Gamer, you're saying final chat. Well, first of all, JD Gamer, I do appreciate all of these super chat donations, buddy. You do bring some interesting things you're saying here, but I just want to thank you for that. You're saying Xbox will not be beat on price or performance. Phil has reported that over and over. That tells us something, and it's why Sony is waiting to show their price. If Sony attempts $399, it's their doom. I don't know if you meant to say $399 or maybe you meant $499, but yeah, I remember Phil Spencer saying that, and I'm gonna be, I'm gonna have to be a little bit blunt here, JD Gamer. Phil Spencer has said a lot of things in the past, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, he said a lot of things, and we are where we are right now. Now, I don't doubt that he's serious. He was correct about performance in terms of, like, having the most powerful console. So, yeah, maybe that tells you that they're not going to be beat on price either. Although you have to understand that when he said that, that wasn't him saying you can guarantee we'll always have the lower price point. That's not really what he was insinuating. What he was insinuating is for, price to performance ratio, they're not going to be beat. So if Sony had the same exact console in terms of power and every component and everything was exactly the same, they would do everything in their power to make sure they beat them in price in that regard. So I don't know. I think that if Sony does go with the $499 price point, again, I think it would still be perfectly okay for them to do that. But I do agree that I think at this point in time, Sony should try, by whatever means necessary, their best to, whatever cost, I don't want to say whatever cost, but they have to try to get as low a price point as possible. I think that would help them greatly. Because if there's one thing that Sony is, it's different for them, like a situation that Sony's in that's very different from Microsoft, is Microsoft does have a lot more leeway thanks to Game Pass. They have a lot of wiggle room, I guess you could say, for knowing they have 10 million Game Pass subscribers, the recurrent revenue. Sony's been trying to put more of an emphasis on PlayStation Now. Maybe they'll take the plunge and decide to put some games day and date. I hope not. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. If they feel it's imperative for them to recoup the loss of the console, that could be a situation we see. But I don't know. That's one area where Microsoft has it over Sony, and we'll see how much they use it to their advantage. We have Piotr Stefan. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but thank you for joining the channel and becoming a member here, stepping up, going above and beyond to support me directly. Thank you. Thank you to all my members. Welcome. That's 2 members we have now that have joined, so thank you guys. Look forward to your exclusive perks, and I hope to eventually see you earn that classic PlayStation badge next to your name. So thank you for that. We also have Chris B. You're saying Phil meant that Lockhart will beat Sony on price and Series X in performance. Yeah, that's exactly, Chris B. That's another way to interpret it, is when Phil Spencer made that comment, he probably knew if Lockhart was a real thing, or is a real thing, that it was going to happen. So yeah, there you go. Bam. Lockhart's going to beat you in price, and Series X is going to beat you in performance, but we all know, guys, that at the end of the day, it's the games that matter more than anything. Matters more than price, matters more than performance. Maybe I'm biased in that opinion. Maybe that's just a delusional opinion, because I just believe that, I am a hardcore gamer, and I believe that's what most hardcore gamers care about. But you're not wrong, Chris B. You also have Fred Vance. You're saying the only blow that could be landed to Sony is if they do the show with no console reveal. Yeah, I agree, but I don't think that is going to happen, to be completely honest. I think that Sony's going to show the console first. They're going to show the console first, and a teardown, similar, like they're going to reveal it in a similar fashion they did the DualSense, because that was very successful for them. and they're going to do a teardown. And at the end of that teardown, or after they show the console, they're going to tell people this is when you can tune in for the big game showcase. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. That's my dream. I would be totally okay if they have a show without showing the console if they decide to show the console beforehand. So I agree that would be a mistake on their part, but I don't know if that's what's going to happen. We have Tyson Webb donating and leaving a little emoji here, haha. So thank you for that, Tyson Webb 509. Much appreciated. We also have True Witty, before I lose it here, saying Microsoft gave Sony some momentum. What's up, MBG? I agree. I agree, True Witty. Well, first of all, hello. But yeah, I totally agree, man. I think that somehow, some way, Xbox's first event kind of propelled Sony a little bit. At the very least, it took away the heat, as my title says here. Took the heat off them for what happened with The Last of Us Part 2 so far. I mean, guys, listen. I don't want to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 a lot in this stream, but when I tell you the conversation is far from over, it's far from over. I think there was maybe I'm going to get heat for saying this, but, you know, looking at the way things have cooled down a little bit, including just from my own perspective, I think there was a little bit of an overreaction. But I think that overreaction, I think there's three sets of groups here. The first group are the people who will defend the game no matter what. The second group are the people, like myself. I put myself in this group where I'm very passionate about gaming. I'm very passionate about certain characters in gaming. And I think a large group of those people, including myself, were very, very distraught and had a hard time swallowing that bitter pill that was the leaks. And then I think there's a whole nother subsection of gamers or people who were total anti-SJW to the point where I think the backlash kind of caught the attention of a lot of anti-SJW people. And you guys know this channel. This is a gaming channel. This is not like a political channel. But I think that just added a lot more fuel to the fire. That's just my assumption, but all I'm trying to say is the conversation is far from over, and I'm looking forward to continuing it as we get closer to the launch. But anyway, I got to finish this topic up here because, guys, we're almost an hour and a half through the podcast, and I've only done 2 topics. So the final thing here is Jason Ronald, the lead developer on the Xbox Series X, was asked about the Xbox Series X price as well. And the question posed to Ronald has to do with Microsoft and balancing, the accounts, very, very powerful hardware, the Xbox Series X being very powerful, and its eventual price. So Ronald explains how Xbox boss Phil Spencer has been transparent about designing the console with a price point in mind. But he also describes how the Xbox team, is going to be agile on the Xbox Series X price. As a lifelong gamer and as a game developer, we all always want more and more and more, Ronald goes on to say. At the same time, we know we have to deliver something at a compelling price point people all across the world are comfortable with and can afford. Ronald doesn't provide any meaningful hints beyond that as to the Xbox Series X's price, but he's likely said more than enough to stir up some next-gen console price speculation. So that's what he had to say. So make of that what you will. And yeah, so I guess the last thing, let me adjust myself here. The last thing I guess I'll say for this topic is just let me know not down in the comments, I'm so used to saying that. Let me know in the chat, the live chat, what you think the final price point for these consoles are going to be. So let me know. And we are moving on to the third topic here, and this is, I think, going to be the final. Let me double check here because I got getting all mixed up over here. Okay, yeah, I think this is the final Xbox topic. Not the final topic, but the final Xbox-centric one. And this one I find very interesting. So it says I wrote down here, a big question that a lot of gamers were asking after the Xbox Showcase event is about frame rate. Basically, gamers want to know if the next generation of consoles will ensure that all games across the board will run at 60 frames per second. Now, we have 2 different things going on here. As Jason Ronald, once again, the lead developer on the Xbox Series X, he gave a pretty strategic answer when he was asked this, saying that the Xbox teams see things like frame rate as a, quote, creative decision, unquote, that developers can choose. Sometimes from a pure gameplay aspect, 30 is the right creative decision they can make. Now, what makes this a little bit confusing is we have the head of marketing, once again, over at Xbox, Aaron Greenberg, stating the exact opposite. A fan tweeted this to Aaron Greenberg. The fan said, "Please force developers to give us the choice of either high performance or higher image quality. We need 60 FPS back in consoles." To which Greenberg replied with, "60 FPS will be the standard output, but the architecture allows us to support up to 120 frames per second." So now a lot of Xbox fans are running with this statement, claiming that we will not see any games under 60 FPS, and if we do, it's 100% the developer's fault. Now, this is a little bit interesting, in my opinion, because I do feel that it's fair to look at a console, both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, and you expect every single game to run 60 FPS. I do think at this point, it will pretty much look like as though it's completely on the developer's side of things if they don't do that. But I think I like Jason Ronald's response better because he's being fair and he's just simply saying, look, like, there's going to be some developers that think 30 FPS is best for what they're doing. They're not going to put a gun to every developer's head and say, we're going to pull the trigger if this game doesn't run at 60 FPS, buddy. They're not going to do that. I know there's some gamers who would love that, but they're not going to. And I do agree that I think it would be in the best interest of all developers if it's possible. I know it won't be all developers, but most, to give an option. I think that that is your safest bet. You don't want any backlash. However, I think that, people need, I think these Xbox guys need to chill just a little bit, because I don't think anybody's sitting here saying, like, well, to be fair, I kind of understand. Maybe there will be some people, if a game doesn't run 60 FPS on the Xbox Series X, they're going to blame Xbox and say, your console sucks. I don't think that's going to be the case, guys. I do think that, I think Aaron Greenberg is kind of hinting at the same thing. I think it's caused maybe a little bit confusion where Aaron Greenberg almost made it sound like it's a mandate. But I think they're both just trying to hint that it is going to be on the developers, and I think Sony's going to be doing the same thing. The bigger question I have is, what are you going to do with your first-party games? But before I miss, Chris B., you're saying Lockhart, $299, PS5, $399, Xbox Series X, $599. I think that Xbox Series X, $599, I don't think it's going to be $600. I think it's going to be $500. When it comes to the PS5, I don't know. I think you could guess 400, but I think 500 is also just as likely. We also have OE, once again, OE Akarumi. I'm just going to call you OA. I don't know. Hope you don't kick yourself for canceling your pre-order for The Last of Us 2. No, see, look, I don't feel bad for... I canceled my collector's edition because... I hope I don't end up feeling that way either, but the truth is that there was a specific reason I wanted that collector's edition that I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but just know that after I saw certain things and I came to my own conclusions, I just now feel more comfortable if I buy the game just buying a physical regular copy or a digital version for $60. That's all I'm going to say on that. I don't want to go any further, but I hope I don't end up feeling the same way either. To be, I'm going to be real right now. I've never been one for collector's editions, just because I'm excited for them at first, and I get the statue with it, whatever, and then I just it just sits there, and I kind of forget about it. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 with collector's editions and how I feel about them. But just kind of finishing up, what's going on here with this frame rate thing. My big question is, what about the first party games? Yesterday, I put out a tweet on Twitter where I said that, or I hinted at Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and how a job listing from them recently said that they are planning to set the graphical benchmark for across the industry, which I don't doubt, and I think that sounds freaking awesome. I can't wait. But somebody immediately said, if it's not 60 FPS, I don't care. Now, I think that's being a little bit extreme. I think there's a lot of people that would still care a lot, even if the game doesn't hit 60 FPS. But that did make me kind of question what can we expect from Sony's first party. I think it's safe to expect that yes, we're gonna get eyeball melting games in terms of visuals. We're gonna get that, but Frame rate, I think, is a little bit more unclear. And I think that Sony's going to, I think they're going to leave it up to the developers, but I'm just wondering, like, can we expect to see a game like Horizon Zero Dawn really set the benchmark for industry-wide for graphics and then still run at a smooth 60 FPS? If not, this is where I would say 100, I don't want to say 100%, but I would be shocked, literally shocked, if at the very least we don't see an option for it. Like, oh, you can play it in performance mode and you get that smooth 60 FPS and the game will still look absolutely beautiful. But if you really want like that just like next level, like what this game can look like graphically, we have to throttle it 30 frames per second, but you have the option. I think that would be ideal. Ideally, they could hopefully achieve both with no compromises. I mean, that's the whole point of these next-gen consoles. Skylar18, thank you for that donation, buddy. You're saying, when I look at the graphical fidelity in The Last of Us Part 2, I say to myself, how much better can it look? I think Sony is making the right decision on focusing on speed and frames over teraflops. I agree. I agree with that. There's actually something that I don't have it in front of me, Skylar18, and I'm probably going to make a separate video on it, but Jeff Keighley kind of highlighted an article. Now, Jeff Keighley, there's no doubt he sees things on the inside. Like, if there's anybody who I think probably saw some of Sony's games or is well aware of what their games are, maybe even what they're going to look like, but he has a general good understanding of what to expect from next gen. I'm assuming anyway. I could be wrong, but it's Jeff Keighley. He has inside contacts, right? He highlighted an article that IGN wrote up, and the article, I don't have it in front of me, I don't know the exact title, but it was basically saying that we should kind of lower our expectations for what we expect graphically when it comes to next-gen games. And Jeff Keighley, and I'll take Jeff Keighley's word over IGN's any day, he said that he thinks the article is not going to age well at all. And basically what he's trying to say with that is, oh, no, they're going to look really, really, really good, and people are going to be blown away. And I don't know why, but I just hear him say that, and I look at this job listing from Guerrilla Games saying that they're going to set the benchmark, and I just have a feeling that as long as we can see it in all its glory, it's going to be difficult to convey that through streams, in like native 4K 60 FPS. It's going to be nearly impossible to convey that to the mass audience in a stream, but that's what I'm expecting, man. And I do think, and I'm just going to be brutally honest right now, I think that it's going to be just unacceptable to see any next-gen game running on first-party game. I think it'll be unacceptable for third parties as well, but mainly talking about first-party from Sony and Microsoft. Frankly, I think it would be unacceptable if the games either don't run at 60 FPS at all, or at the very least don't have the option to run at 60 FPS. I just think that's unacceptable at this point. I really do. We have Brandon's Legion. You're saying, so you can actually buy those same items separately, way cheaper for the price they charge for collector's edition. They're aware of price. Yeah, I noticed that too. A lot of times if you just wait a little bit, usually more collector's editions become available and they're cheaper, or you can buy the items separately, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is with the collector's editions, I think at this point, I have to just admit that, yeah, I'm going to play the game, guys. It's in my opinion, regardless of how I'm left feeling after I complete The Last of Us Part 2, putting that completely aside, looking at the game for what it is, like, and knowing what I know about the game industry, somebody who's very passionate about gaming, I would not be able to resist playing this game, because everything about this game, again, regardless of how I end up feeling about it, screams must play. And I feel like that's one thing that people can't argue. Like, I don't care how anti this game you are, and I know that I really went in hard where I'm like, I don't know if I can support this with my money, and again, like, I may end up feeling that way after I beat it, but just, I don't want to take away everything that the developers have put into it, because you can tell there's a lot of heart and soul in this game just by the way it looks, just from a gameplay perspective, just from what the animators were able to achieve, the cutscenes, regardless of what is in those cutscenes, just how superb they are, right? And this is where I feel like I was a little bit unfair, but I know I was very reactionary, very emotional, and I probably just said more than I should have, honestly. But, there's no doubt in my mind that, and I'm not going to lie to you, after seeing this next-gen showcase from Xbox, it made me appreciate The Last of Us 2 even more and Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm like, oh my god, like, no offense to these games, but god damn, you can just look at Sony's games and realize they are just a cut above the rest, man. At least most. I mean, there's other games like Cyberpunk and stuff, Rockstar's games that are up there too, but you just, I realize that it's all too easy to jump the gun, and I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse. You guys know that it was a very bitter pill for me to swallow, but it's done and over with now, and all that's left is the game's going to release, and we're all going to experience it together, and I'm fully expecting the conversation to be very torn. I think what Troy Baker said is 100% true, where some people are going to love this game, some people are going to hate it, and for me to sit here and say preemptively that I know exactly how I'm going to feel is just not fair. But there's no doubt there were some bitter pills that had to be swallowed. But guys, we will, again, it's hard not to talk about it because it's like a big game that's coming out, man. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. We have JV Rod once again. Don't worry, MVG, I'll make sure you get a collector's edition. I have hope in Naughty Dog, and I feel that we can't just take the leaks at face value. And I very much appreciate that, JV Rod. I do agree. Like, I feel that it's easy to be reactionary to out-of-context leaks, and there's no doubt that I was. There are some things I still do feel very strongly about. However, I feel like this is the worst, right? Like, I've experienced the worst. Seeing out-of-context leaks, it can only, in my opinion, get better or at the very least stay the same once I get that full context and that full experience. So I was a little bit harsh. I know that I have a tendency to get over-emotional and stuff like that, but guys, look, like, there's no, it's not just Neil Druckmann, right? Like, Naughty Dog is a large group of people who put a lot into what they do, and I just don't want to be that asshole that basically just says, F you guys, and your virtue signaling, and I don't care how much work or effort you put into it, and F you, Sony. Like, I don't want to be that guy, because I realize, like, that's just not how I really feel. Like, I feel that you gotta give credit where credit's due. It's just like the Xbox situation where I can easily give them credit on what they've done with the Xbox Series X. Am I thrilled about what they did with their first video game showcase? Absolutely not. But I can't just completely say, wow, Xbox sucks, and everything about Xbox sucks. Like, that's not fair. Like, that's not rational, And that's all I'm trying to get at, guys, is I'm trying not to go off the deep end with anything anymore. I'm trying to be fair. I feel like I can be emotionally driven, and I can be passionate about what I'm saying, but I feel like at the very least I have to be fair about what I'm saying. I have to be willing to give things a fair shake. And if I'm not willing to do that, then I just shouldn't talk about it. And that's how I feel about it. So anyway, we have to move right along here, and I want to let you guys know that from this point forward, we have basically a bunch of different gaming-related topics just kind of jumbled into one. And it's, in my opinion, I think it's going to be very informative, hopefully for you guys. But I think this is kind of what I want to do with the podcast format, where basically the first half of the show, or the bulk of it, is talking about just purely PlayStation and Xbox stuff, and then kind of saving the latter half or the later half of the podcast for talking about all the other stuff that's going on in the gaming industry. I think it gives us a good opportunity to kind of go over that, because I don't really make dedicated videos to it. True Whittier saying, MBG, what are those leaks? What of those leaks are old scenes? And I mean, yeah, dude, like, that's the thing, man. They're leaks. I would be, if there's anything that would literally make me scream in shock, it would be that the leaks I saw were just somehow not in the game or just completely altered. That would make me scream out loud with shock. Although, I think there are some things that can change. I think that there's just some things that are out there that are not going to change, but that's maybe where you have to see how it plays out to determine for yourself, is this as bad as you think it is? And then after you see it for yourself, if you still think so, okay, then that's fine. You saw the whole thing and you're like, ugh, that was bad. But again, out of context leaks, it is what it is, you know. But moving on from that, before we move to the next topics, guys, we still have over 1,300 people watching, so thank you. Do me a favor, hit that like button. We currently have over 630 likes. I don't know if it's possible. Let's see if we can get to 1,000 likes before the end of this podcast. Even if we can't, not a big deal. Hopefully we'll be able to do it afterwards, but really helps the podcast out, guys. If you guys enjoyed this podcast and you want to see it to continue grow, that's the easiest way for you to support it without really having to do much. It gets it out there for people to see. We have Hey Hat Minazila. Well, you didn't say anything, but you're just donating, so thank you for that. But moving on to just a bunch of gaming-related topics here. Apparently, the new Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 8, is by far the darkest and most gruesome Resident Evil yet, to a point where it may even shock some fans. This comes from the well-known Resident Evil insider and leaker known as Dust Golem. This is also the same individual who is leaking out Silent Hill and letting us know that they still believe Silent Hill is coming for the PlayStation 5, and it will be announced sooner rather than later. So this is what they're saying about Resident Evil 8, and I find this interesting because I feel like Resident Evil, to an extent, has always been pretty dark and pretty gruesome, but it hasn't really been taken to that next level. Well, I don't know. I mean, Resident Evil 7 was pretty gruesome. So I don't know. I mean, I guess they're just going to try to take it even further, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. You know, would you like to see an even darker, more gruesome Resident Evil game? I'm all for that. Like, I mean, Resident Evil being darker and just kind of, like, to me, that just adds to the horror, right? Like, it doesn't need to be darker just for the sake of being darker, but I think it really does add to it. And he's also saying that apparently Chris Redfield is going to be starring in the game, and they're planning on giving Chris Redfield another redesign. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it'll be a little bit weird because I feel like he's been redesigned so many times, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess he looked fine in Resident Evil 7, but they want to redesign him again. I wonder if they'll make him super buff once again, like Resident Evil 5 and 6. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. We are moving right along here and talking just for a moment about Bloodborne, because I find this pretty interesting. Also, I'm thinking about maybe naming this section Random Game News and Updates. I don't know about that, but we could just call it that. The prolific modder Lance McDonald shared footage of Bloodborne running at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 4. And honestly, this makes me want, at the very least, a PlayStation 5 remaster of Bloodborne. I would certainly pay $60 for that. So, I saw Digital Foundry kind of covered this, and I just thought it was awesome because he's just a modder, and he kind of did this in his spare time, and he was kind of showing what the game would look like with a 60 frames per second, and it looked awesome, obviously. And so, really, this just makes me not only want Bloodborne 2, it's just so fascinating to see how prevalent a game like Bloodborne still is in terms of general conversation in gaming, because that's just how big of a market left. And we just haven't really heard anything about, a sequel or anything like that. But, I hope that Sony pays attention to this, and maybe we could see Bloodborne being one of the games that's boosted. Oh, okay. Let me take a second here. Just going to go off the rails here. So I know this game rant. I got to rant here just a little bit, so bear with me. I want to bring it up on Twitter because it just bothered me. It really bothered me, and I think some of you know what I'm talking about. But on Twitter, I noticed that Game Rant posted an article, and it says, rumor, PS5 will launch with boost mode, a boost mode feature for select PS4 games. Now, I have to rant just a little bit here because I clicked on this article because I was interested, and I was also a little bit confused because I could have swore that was something Sony already officially announced ever since Mark Cerny did his deep dive with the PlayStation 5. So I clicked on it, and they're citing, now, I'm not innocent entirely because I have cited this individual before, but guys, I have been burned by these fake insiders like no one else here on YouTube. And I have a little bit of disdain towards them because I just don't like the idea of people making shit up, and, because of how easy it is for fools like me to believe it, and to take advantage of the excitement that the community has, and just basically make it sound like, oh yeah, it's real, like I got inside contacts, and really, like, they're literally just making shit up. They're not talking to anybody except the voice in their head, right? Chris Wade, you're saying RE more gruesome, fine, but with context and story. I agree. I feel like, again, doing it just for the sake of shock value, that wears off pretty quickly. But to continue my rant here, they are Game Rant. So I'm going to click on them because I noticed they had multiple articles, at least two. That was one, and there was another that was talking about free game upgrades, right? Like saying that based off of a new rumor, multiple games will offer free upgrades from PS4 to PS5. And the individual they were citing for this rumor is an individual on Twitter who has burned me before, PlayStation Earbus. I think maybe some of you know who they are. Just a random Twitter user, doesn't say who they are or who their contacts are or how they know. They basically make it seem like they either work at Sony or they know somebody who works at Sony. And this is the same, like, Game Rant is citing the same individual who for literally like 5 months straight, their pinned comment was stack 'em up, PS5 pre-orders go live in March. Basically saying, hey guys, I got that inside scoop. PlayStation 5 pre-orders are going live in March. You heard it here. And this is the same person who's just been saying shit for so long. And it's pretty clear, in my opinion, that they're pretty much talking out their ass. And not only that, but they're just stating things that have already been announced. And they have articles written up about them as if this is new information. This is not new information, people. All right? Like, I had to highlight this on Twitter and point out that this was literally confirmed by Sony. This is not a rumor. This is official information. And yeah, I know I still refer to some insiders, right? Because I do think that there are actually some real insiders who have some credibility. But I'll tell you, after I got burned the way I did, I am much more careful about how much I trust what an supposed insider, is saying. And I also try to look at their track record a little bit further. True Witty, all insiders are Randy Orton. Yeah, so I just had to go on this little rant here because I just feel like it's bullshit, man. Like, it just is. Like, stop. Just stop. Like, just stop with the crap. Stop taking advantage of people's excitement. I've never claimed to be an insider. I've never once claimed to have, like, an inside track because I don't. And even if I did, I wouldn't even reveal it because it would just, unless it's, like, literally, I have a literal phone call with Jim Ryan himself or Mark Cerny himself. You got to take it with a grain of salt. So I just had to go on this rant here because I'm just tired of the fake insiders. I'm tired of people being credited like with shit like, oh, let me just make a Twitter account and make it PlayStation related and just say random things. These are the same people who were saying that the PlayStation 5 is going to have full backwards compatibility with PS3, PS2, and PS1. And as of yet, that hasn't been announced yet. And I've hyped that up in the past, and I saw how excited people got for it, and I'm like, shit, like, I really hope that this ends up being true because people really want this. And all it ends up being is people getting other people's expectations totally out of whack, and I am guilty of buying into that too much. So I'm just going on a rant here. And this is why, like, I really kind of backed off on using the terms insiders and credible insiders. There's some for sure, but yeah, end rant. We're going to move right along here, guys. Bungie has revealed that Destiny 2 will be making its way to the PS5 and Xbox Series X. This seems to suggest that we will be getting a native version of the game on PlayStation 5, and because this everybody seems to be hoping that we're going to see 60 frames per second with some graphical enhancements. Seems like if we ever get a Destiny 3, it is a ways off. I think I heard it might not come till 2023. And they're letting us know that they're going to be giving us more details soon. So there's your Destiny 2 update. Apologize, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. This is what happens when I freaking rant, man. I get myself all worked up and pissed off, and I'm like screaming, and I start losing my voice. So Hopefully you guys are entertained, but apologize if I'm like screaming into my mic. Seems that Call of Duty Warzone will also be making its way to PlayStation 5, as Infinity Ward's studio narrative director says that as soon as the new systems are out and available, he is, quote, sure, unquote, that they will support them. So if you are a Call of Duty Warzone fan, it sounds like there will certainly be PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions or upgrades of that. Surprised to hear that PUBG hasn't said anything yet, considering it's like, it's one of my favorite games to play, just to chill and play something. I would love to see that upgraded, 4K 60 FPS. Speaking of Call of Duty, during an investors call, Activision talked about its next Call of Duty and whether or not it might be delayed. According to Activision, everything is still on track for the new Call of Duty to release at the end of this year. On top of that, they also mentioned that they will be releasing 2 titles based on their existing IP. At this point, it seems very likely that we are getting a new Crash Bandicoot game, which has already been rumored. Apparently, there's going to be a new Crash Bandicoot game announced, and it might be a timed PlayStation 5 exclusive, and apparently it's going to be an original title, not like a remake. This is what we're hearing anyway. And it also seems likely we are getting a new Tony Hawk game of some sort. And recently, the professional skateboarder Jason Dill confirmed that a new Tony Hawk game is coming this year. Now, speaking of skateboarding, gotta love these segues here. I don't even know if that's considered a segue, but it's just smooth transitions, I guess. Whatever. You can tell I'm starting to lose it, guys. I've been talking for too long. Speaking of skateboarding, it turns out EA is actually planning to do something with Skate. But it's not what we want. Apparently, EA is planning to release a mobile version of Skate 3. Jason Dill, again the professional skateboarder, talked about it on the 9 Club podcast, and this is what he said. So this woman emailed me and said, "Hey Jason, we want to do a mobile version of Skate 3. And I wrote back and I said, "What else?" She wrote back and said, "No, that's it." So I wrote back and said, "Look, no big deal, but no one wants your stupid mobile version of Skate 3. Make Skate effing 4 already. Just do it. You can't level it to the same numbers you get on other games. You do it for the cultural thing, and that pays you back later." If you can't tell by now, Jason Dill declined the offer to work with EA on the mobile title, responding to the publisher's refusal to his request to make Skate 4 by wishing them good luck on Need for Speed 29. So I think we have a little bit more here. Says, "I don't think it's right," he says. "I think it's effing dumb. I think the Skate organization at EA have done themselves a big disservice by not actually trying." So I had to highlight that because that is gold in my opinion, where you have EA trying to reach out to a professional skateboarder to get them to work on a mobile version of Skate 3, and he's basically just like, "F you, make Skate 4, man, make it." And I love it, man. You got a pro skater crapping on I said crap again. I may as well just say shitting on mobile gaming and basically saying, make the better game. And I 100% agree. Where the hell is Skate 4? So I had to highlight that. I thought it was kind of awesome. I guess he's kind of sticking it to him there. Recently, David Hayter, the voice actor for Solid Snake and Big Boss, said that he would be up to reprising his role again if ever given the opportunity. This is exactly what he said. "Look, I love Snake. I love doing the character. And as people know, I'll do it at the drop of a hat. So if they wanted to bring me back to remake those games, I'd certainly be thrilled to do so." Guys, this broke my heart, man, because I love David Hayter. He is Snake. Like, Kiefer Sutherland did fine, but he's not Snake. He's not Snake. Kiefer Sutherland is not Snake. David Hayter is and always will be Snake/Big Boss, in my opinion. And, I don't think he was hinting at anything here. I think he was just genuinely answering the question as honestly as he could and just saying that, look, like, he loved playing Snake and he would do it in a heartbeat. He would do it. He would love to do it. And, this is what makes me really hope that Konami's doing more than just, well, first of all, we don't even know if Konami's doing more with Silent Hill. We can just hope that the rumors are true. But if they do, I hope they do more and do something actually good with Metal Gear after the abomination that was Metal Gear Survive. Please remake Metal Gear 1, 2, 3, or 4 and bring David Hayter back as Snake. Just do it. I would love for that. So I just wanted to highlight that because I just, got to give credit to David Hayter. I love to see that he doesn't have any ill will towards the series or towards Konami. I don't know if he has any ill will towards Kojima. I'm sure he doesn't, but we all know what happened between him and Kiefer Sutherland, and that was probably one of the biggest blows to me. I was insanely hyped for MGS5, and when I found out David Hayter wasn't going to be there, I was just like, okay, depression is setting in now. So I got to give you guys a warning right now. The next topic we are talking about, if you have kids in the room or kids that are listening, or you're in a public space, or you have people around you that you don't want to offend, because this is going to be somewhat, I know this sounds really bizarre to say this, sexual in nature, because we're talking about Cyberpunk 2077, and we have to talk about this because it's pretty significant, but it is, I'm giving you fair warning to either mute it or just stop talking about it or whatever. It looks like the footage for the podcast has cut out, unfortunately, in the background. I'm going to see if I can fix that really quick. I think it's just because it would end up replaying. Give me just a second here, guys. I want to get that footage back, if it's possible. There we go. All right. Real quick, True Witty, you're saying, I hope Sony buy those IP from Konami. I hope so, too. I don't think Konami's going to. I think, if anything, Sony might just really urge Konami to, to do more with it. But yeah, warning, we are talking about some sexually related stuff relating to Cyberpunk 2077, but I was not going to not talk about this because it's funny. Apparently, you can customize your genitals in Cyberpunk 2077. The rating reads, the game contains nudity and sexual material. And I'm going to warn you guys, this gets pretty wordy. All right. Players can select a gender and customize their character. Customization can include depictions of breasts, buttocks, and genitalia, as well as various sizes and combinations of genitals. Combinations of genitals. Okay. In true cyberpunk fashion, it sounds as though you can modify your body however you want. The rating goes on to say, the game contains nudity and sexual material. Players can select a gender and customize their character. Customization can include depiction. Oh, I think I just typed that twice by accident. But, I actually think I messed this up. There was actually a second part to this. I really messed this up. I accidentally just copy and pasted it. But so there's that, right? But it actually went on to explain the sexual acts you will be able to partake in this game. And I had it written down in front of me, and I accidentally messed it up in this document, which sucks. Or unless it's just somewhere randomly pasted. No, I don't see it. But basically, it was describing the stuff you could do in the game. And I mean, it's going to be vulgar, man. I mean, it was straight up like, it was talking about thrusting, it was talking about grabbing people and actually seeing it in first person. I'm like, all right, apparently that's going to be a thing that they're going to have in Cyberpunk 2077. You will be able to customize your genitals. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. I guess they're really taking it to another level in this case. Mr. Hamster, come on, man. My dad finally allowed me to come here, and now you're talking about all these adult topics. Shaking my head, just kidding. Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, I tried to give fair warning, but this was something I saw a lot of people talking about, and it's just, yeah. I also think maybe anybody who is planning on buying the game should be aware that this is something they plan to put a big emphasis on. So, moving right along here. It has been announced that Madden 21 is not using Xbox's smart delivery feature, but instead they're doing their own thing. They say you can upgrade for free, but only within a certain time frame. The game must be purchased for Xbox One before December 30th, 2020, you could tell I was towards the end of typing all this crap out, bunch of misspelled stuff. You basically have until, I think, March 31st to upgrade. So you have, basically, you have to buy the game before December 30th. And then if you're going to get your free upgrade, it has to be before the end of March. So it's a very tight window there, and it says if you miss these windows, you're going to have to double dip on the game. And I found this interesting because it proves that when it comes to upgrading your games for next gen, it might not go as smoothly as everybody is predicting it will or anticipating. Seems like Microsoft tried to get out in front and set the precedent, but there's no doubt, this doesn't surprise me. There's no doubt that a lot of these companies are going to want to try to get people to double dip. My big question is Sony going to be one of these companies? I don't think they will be, but we just can't say for sure until Sony officially lets us know. I just don't think it's likely. I think Sony will probably do something very similar to Smart Delivery. Moving right along here, EA confirms that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is the first game in a new franchise. EA's Andrew Wilson said when speaking during an earnings call that it's the first title in an entirely new franchise. He called it a breakout title and said that more than 10 million players have played the game. Now, I thought this was kind of awesome to highlight because I did play Jedi Fallen Order. I did beat it. I thought it was fantastic. And I'm really glad to hear that not only it did so well for EA because we know their stance on single-player games, but now they feel so good about it that they're ready to, turn it into a new franchise, which is awesome. I also think that, honestly, the story that was told in Jedi Fallen Order was one of the better Star Wars stories we've gotten in a long time. Andrew Wilson was also asked about the progress on Battlefield 6 and how development is going, and he responded by saying it's progressing very, very well, and they're excited about what the team is doing. And apparently there's also a remastered title in the works, a mystery title, and some are hoping it's going to be Mass Effect, maybe Skate 3, Dead Space, Bad Company 2, Def Jam, or even Knights of the Old Republic, although I think Jeff Grubb actually may have confirmed, I don't know if he did it directly or indirectly, but I've heard he may have confirmed that it is going to be a Mass Effect game or trilogy remaster or remake, and I think a lot of people would love to see that. So moving right along here, continuing with this gaming news, a Polish website recently published an expose on the development of Dying Light 2. And I find this interesting because Dying Light 2 was set to, I think, come out this month actually, and it just got delayed indefinitely, and we haven't heard anything about it. And they are citing anonymous Techland sources. The article, I'm not going to read it here, but basically they said that Dying Light 2 development is currently a mess and that there is a general lack of focus in the studio. So WCCF Tech actually reached out for a statement, and they ended up getting one from a Techland PR rep, and this is what they said. They said, at Techland, we work as a team and we grow as a team. We are proud that many of our employees have chosen to be with us for years. The mentioned article contains various opinions from both our employees and anonymous sources. Each opinion matters to us, so we are now carefully analyzing all the topics raised. When it comes to Dying Light 2, development is moving forward according to our internal schedule we revised at the beginning of the year. It doesn't sound like the development troubles are being utterly denied. Then, on the contrary, Techland appears eager to embrace the criticisms in order to hopefully fix at least some of those issues by the time Dying Light 2 is released. Another part of the expose mentioned the possibility of Microsoft acquiring Techland. The article even suggested the news could be announced during tomorrow's Inside Xbox episode, but that won't be the case, as we were all assured that Techland isn't even in talks to be acquired, and the studio plans to stay independent. And so, yeah, there you go. That's pretty much a bunch of significant game news that we got throughout the week here. And I wanted to relay everything, you guys. Obviously, it's not everything, but I thought it was some of the more significant stuff. So we're approaching the end of the podcast here. And as I usually like to do, I want to take just some time to try and interact with the chat a little bit before we end it. I think so far it's been a really great podcast. I think we had some really good topics, did some good ranting as usual. I've noticed I've been swearing a lot more than normal. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just more worked up than usual. You guys can let me know. Do you like the swearing? Do you not like it? I feel like swearing too much. It's just not classy, but I am human, so I don't know. Maybe that's just a weird thing to ask my audience in general, but we still have over 1,000 people watching, which is awesome. Thank you guys for still being here with me after pretty much 2 hours. Be sure to hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 1,000 likes. If we can't, no big deal, but we are already over 732 likes, and that is just impressive. I'm very impressed with you guys and the support you continue to show here, making this, in my opinion, one of the best podcasts around. And honestly, I know it's a different podcast, not the normal format that you normally see, but in my opinion, that just kind of, and I'm not, not trying to talk myself up here. I'm just saying I think it adds to it. I think it's what makes it unique. I think we have a unique thing going on here. But turning to the chat here, let's see what some of you guys are saying. Regarding The Last of Us 2 leak, what if you made a certain choice in the game and certain things are just certain, so I don't want to spoil anything, but you're basically saying, like, what if in The Last of Us Part 2 you actually have the option, right? Like you can make certain decisions and that ultimately impacts the direction the story goes in. I think it's possible. I think that would be a huge twist that no one saw coming. No one. And that would change everything, depending on how significant those options would be and depending on how significant the consequences of your decisions end up being. I think that would be absolutely huge. Freezebamp, you say, you are awesome, MG. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, buddy. Let's see what else you guys are saying. You're saying you want every other word a swear word, MBG. Well, I'm not going to do that. That's just asking to get completely demonetized. And I don't know. I just feel like that's not classy. Let me see. Mr. Hamster asking if I saw your shout out that you gave me yesterday. I did. Thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate it. Somebody's saying SOCOM, Killzone, Resistance, PS5. I would love to see any of those. I think Sony would do well to have some type of first-person shooter, or in SOCOM's case, third-person shooter, something. Let me see. I heard Yang wanted to fight you, bro. You should accept. Why is that brought up? Is there something I'm not aware of with Yang? Like, I like Yang. I think he's cool. I think he's okay. I like Yang. He just seems like a rational guy, and I like hearing a lot of his coverage. I feel like he definitely gives his opinions, but it's more for him. I think it's more about just getting the information out there foremost. But I haven't heard anything about Yang. I mean, did Yang ever mention me? Because that would be pretty cool. I mean, he's pretty huge, so that would be awesome. You're asking for more rants. I try to make them. I try not to force rants. I try to just let them happen naturally. MBG and no killing dogs. Yeah, that was a weird thing that I saw happen recently with The Last of Us. They're trolling me with the Yang thing. Yeah, I figured. Before you know it, somehow word's going to get to Yang. Oh, did you hear that, Yang? MBG wants to fight you. And it's like, no. No. But, yeah, I saw that there was kind of a little bit of a controversy going on with GameStop and their description of the dogs in the games, and they made it sound like you're going to be forced to kill dogs in a brutal way for survival, and people started like getting all dramatic about that, being like, "How could you, Naughty Dog? You really, you're really making us do stuff we don't want to do." But they had to come out and say, "No, it's an option. You don't have to." Although I do think that there probably will be situations where it's going to be really difficult not to kill the dogs. Let me see what else. Deep Down, MBG. Yeah, I would love to see Deep Down, but I don't know. I don't know what the chances of us are actually seeing that. MBG, have you played or finished Final Fantasy VII Remake? Those graphics as well look better than anything that was shown on Inside Xbox. Eventually, I'm going to get to playing it. I don't know why. I'm just totally engrossed in God of War right now again. I just had an itch to go back and play that. When do you think Sony's PS5 games and console reveal event will be, MBG? I think it's going to be early June. I think we might get something this month with the PlayStation console. Like, maybe we could see the console this month. Maybe the teardown. Maybe that's hoping for too much this month. But I think it's going to be very soon. I think June is when we're going to see something from Sony. Let me see here. You have to kill people in the game, but you're crying about killing dogs. I mean, there's a lot of people who look at animals and they believe animals are just always innocent. They're purely innocent. I don't know. It's a tough thing. It's a gray area. My message been skipped again. Can I repeat again, please? Sure. I maybe I did miss your message, Freeze Vamp. I'll try to see what you're saying here. I'm sorry for saying so much. I notice anytime I feel like there's gonna be dead air, I just say and I feel like they'd rather hear nothing than hear that. Xbots are trolling in the chat. That's unfortunate. Can you explain what's the MBG play with friends thing? MBG? Yeah, so the MBG and friends thing is an exclusive perk for members only, where once a month, although it's subject to change because it might become a little much. Although when I say subject to change, not that you won't get the content you're entitled to, but the content may actually alter a little bit. But the idea is every month I'm going to play a game, or I'm going, whether it be a new release, could be an older game. More often than not, as game releases start to ramp back up, it'll probably be a new release or a newer game. And the MBG and Friends Club for members is basically going to be a long form video. It could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. It just depends on how the conversation goes, where I'm going to try to get me, at the bare minimum, at least one of my friends, close friends, and maybe some of my other friends as well, if we all are playing the same game, and hopefully try to beat that game. It's okay if they don't beat it, though. We'll still talk about it. And just get together and just talk about it. Talk about all the aspects of the game, what we liked. It's kind of like a game club, Talk about the characters, talk about the setting, talk about the gameplay mechanics, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we loved, what we hated. And I just, I wanted to do something a little bit special for my members that is truly different than my normal content. I didn't want to give members just more of the same. I just feel like that's not fair. That's not exciting for my members. I do want to let you know, though, I'm going to be doing one a month. So that'll be 12 within a year. 3 of those 12 will go out publicly for everybody in my audience to see, so that they can get a little glimpse in what they might be missing out on, and incentivize them to also become members as well and join that club. So, I hope people understand, anybody who may be upset because they're like, oh, you're paywalling content. Listen, I upload every single day, and I rarely miss a day. I mean, occasionally I do, and sometimes I do take small breaks, but I upload pretty much every day. So you're still going to get all the regular content for free. You know what I mean? And the worst you maybe have to put up with are some ads. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that for the people who are going above and beyond to become members of the channel, again, I've expressed this before, I think that's a really, really nice thing for people to do, especially at a time like this. And I just wanted to make sure that I can provide you guys with something that you hopefully feel good about. So, Enrico, you're saying, please explain the God of War story. I felt all over the place with the mention of different gods and giants. It is a little bit confusing, but we'll save that for when we discuss it in the MBG and Friends Club. Will the PS5 be 4K 60 FPS or 4K 30? I think we'll probably see a mix of both. I'm hoping 4K 60 is the standard, though. Let me see. I hope Norman Reedus would have been in Silent Hill. Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen now, unfortunately, guys. I think that's just gone. I mean, he was in Death Stranding, but I don't think Kojima's going to have any involvement in Silent Hill if it is real. But would you like a Metal Gear remake on PS5? Yes, I actually talked about that a little bit earlier. I would. Did you hear about the breakup between Nolan North and Troy Baker? No, I did not. You should tell me about that. I want to hear more about that. Because, I know by breakup you don't mean they're literally together. I'm assuming that's not what you mean anyway. But I know they had their own YouTube channel and stuff. I'm interested to see what that's about. Do you think we will get Resident Evil 8 and it'll be the same third person like Resident Evil 3? I think it's already been confirmed to be first person for Resident Evil 8. Although I like third person more than first person though, honestly. MBG, will you get a PS5 day one? Yes. Will you buy the Xbox Series X? Not sure yet. Will brown sugar show up on the members only stream? Probably not. Probably not. He'll probably be part of the MBG and Friends Game Club. He'll probably be the most consistent member because he's like more of a gamer. Although he has not played God of War, and this will be his first God of War game ever. So I think it'll just make for interesting conversation. Oi Akarumi, once again, thank you for the donations. You're saying play The Last Guardian, thank me later. If you haven't, PS sounds like Garfield and Friends. That kind of stuff has to happen, but it happens, you know. MBG, have you thought about setting up a Discord? No, not really. I just like to keep everything here on YouTube, just to simplify it and streamline it all, not only for my sake, but mainly for my sake. Who am I kidding? So yeah, is that title real? What about the Xbox Series X? It's not. It might be. We don't know. I should play Dead by Daylight. Yeah, a few people have recommended that to me. FreezeVamp, maybe Wesker brainwashed him to kill whoever's left from Stars. Maybe. Alright, guys, we'll go for just another minute here. Getting pretty hungry, pretty thirsty. I forgot to bring my damn water today. So you can tell I'm talking so low. My voice is so dry. We could do some ASMR. That doesn't sound pleasant. My ASMR, my asthma does not sound pleasant. I just sound like I'm straining when I'm whispering. But, maybe it's just something that happened in the heat of the moment. Yeah, could have been. Maybe they'll make up, you know? It's hard to say. Do you think we'll see crossover characters from Resident Evil games? I hope so. I would love to see more characters. MBG, any idea on the importance of 2.1 HDMI for next generation? Unfortunately, I don't know. I've heard it'll be good, but I don't know what it will do. I just heard it'll do good things. But all right, guys. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. I pretty much said everything I have to say. Dragon's Exile, you're saying subscribed. Hail MBG. Well, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate all of my subscribers. I appreciate everybody who interacts with the channel at all, but I especially appreciate those of you who go above and beyond and really show your support continually, consistently. Those of you who donate during the streams, who watch the ads, of course, to help me out, and watch the entire video, and especially those of you who have become channel members to support me directly. So my voice is really starting to go now. Again, we have over 900 people still here, so before you leave, hit that like button if you haven't already. Apologize for constantly sounding like a broken record, but likes on YouTube just means so much, and they're so important for the stream, and it's the easiest way to help to contribute. You want to contribute to help let this channel grow and see this channel grow and see the podcast grow and become even bigger. That's the easiest way for you to contribute. So thank you again to everybody for showing up, especially those of you who stuck around for the entire time. Those of you who donated, had some really great questions in the super chats, some really great statements. And those of you who are channel members, thank you so much. You know, it's because of you guys I can do this. And I think it just continues to get better. So, yeah, that does it. Leave a like on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. But before I go, I have one more super chat here. From Oe. If there's anybody else who has any intention of doing any, do it real quick because I don't want to miss it. Oe Akarumi. I mean, MBG and Friends sounds like Garfield and Friends. Okay. I was a little bit confused about what you had meant by that. I was like, wait, Garfield and Friends. I don't know how to respond to this, but that makes total sense now. So, all right, yeah, hopefully, you know, I hope the members of the channel really do enjoy the perks that I set up. I really, again, I tried to do something a little bit special. So that's going to do it, guys. I see people saying Young out. I'm not going to say that. That's Young's thing. I think he perfected it. I like to go with take care. Until next time, guys, take care. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, I know this is coming at the last second here before I end it, but I wanted to just let everybody know I am going to try to work on merch. Some people were asking me about that. I have some stuff in the works, so I don't know if it's going to pan out the way I'm hoping it will. Obviously, I hope it does. But I've just noticed some people were asking me about that because I had mentioned in the past when I hit 50K, I was thinking about doing merch. So for anybody who's still wondering about that, yeah, that's something I still do have on the table. So I don't know when it's going to happen exactly. I'm hoping much sooner rather than later. And when it does, I will gladly announce it and let everybody know. So yeah, but that's going to do it, guys. Until next time. Take care.